Hello, gazers. It's Dr. Lee here.
And I'm Dave from The Problematic Gaze.
Before you listen to this podcast, we just wanted to let you know about our socials. We are at Podcast Gaze on Instagram and at Problematic Gaze on TikTok.
Give us a follow where you'll find content relating to our chosen topic contained in this podcast.
And don't forget to follow us and do leave us a review. They really help to spread the word of The Problematic Gaze.
And please email us at theproblematicgaze@gmail.com if you have any thoughts on the podcast or you want to suggest future topics.
In the meantime, we hope you enjoy the show. Hello, gazers, and a very happy new year. Welcome to The Problematic Gaze with me, Dr. Lee Arnott.
And me, Dave Moor.
Each episode, we'll take a piece of pop culture from the last 60 years, look at it through the problematic lens to see if it's problematic, why it's problematic, and what that says about society and culture then and now.
Happy New Year to you, Dr. Lee Arnott.
Happy New Year to you, Dave Moore. Happy Betwixtmas as well. How are you? How have you been?
I'm just taking a nice deep breath. It's good to talk to you because today is the first day we haven't had any guests in the house. And obviously I love them all to bits, but it is nice to wave them off and do normal things for a change.
Have you turned into Wayne and Waynetta slob overnight and just like lying there in big tracksuits with a fried egg down your front and stuff?
No, but I did rather than have to lay out a full spread every meal, I did find myself just taking a plate of leftover turkey out the fridge and just eating it with my hand and scoffing it just because I could.
You went feral.
We've gone feral, basically. We've got 2 days and then we've got the next tranche of people arriving. Well, just one person, and it's your friend of mine, Remy. She's coming up for a couple of days, and Remy is the sort of friend you can just say, there's the fridge, help yourself, and she will. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, she will.
Because I ain't moving off the sofa.
Well, enjoy it. Enjoy your feralness. That's very nice.
Yeah. How was your festive period?
It was all right, you know. We basically went to the supermarket on Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock. It was empty. Bought some stuff for nice food. I've realised that not really doing Christmas, but actually gives you the excuse just to sit in the house all day for 48 hours and not speak to anybody. It's fantastic. So it was very much a slow day, but it was great. Really enjoyed it. And it's nice just to pack it back away now. We put some lights up, but then we've taken them down this morning. So,
do you know what I haven't indulged in yet, which we all know is my favourite thing to do over Christmas? I haven't had the old Christmas cake poured with Baileys yet.
Well, maybe now's the perfect time to do that, when there's nobody around to be disgusted at you.
That's what I'm going to do straight after this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's nice to get back to some professional podcasting with my friend. Professional is our middle name, obviously. So, what are we going to be talking about this week, Lee?
Well, I thought you were deciding it.
I thought you were deciding it.
We discussed this. You said you were deciding it. Oh my God.
You said you were deciding it.
Oh my.
I've had a house full.
You've had self-inflicted misery on yourself, and now you're lashing out because, well...
All you've had to do is welcome gentlemen callers and deck your own body weight in snowballs. You had one job, which was choose the topic.
We're just joking.
Oh.
We're just joking. We're not going to do this, we're going to do a review of our year, because it's been quite a year, hasn't it? Think back to where all this started. I mean, my trajectory alone, darling, I was recording in my wardrobe at one point. So
we were recording in wardrobes. We were forgetting to press record. We were like, what's a reel on our social media? Yeah. And now look at us. In the space of 6 months, we've got the beautiful PG Towers that are 100 floor central headquarters with a myriad of people working beneath us. It's been, as far as meteoric rises go, what would you compare it to?
I can't think of anything.
It's like when Britney Spears shot to fame with Hit Me Baby One More Time. It's that fast and that's meteoric.
That's exactly what it's like. Yeah, well done. Pulled that one back.
So what we thought we'd do is, because, well, basically we just couldn't be asked to think of anything this week, could we?
Oh, we didn't have time.
We didn't have time. We've been busy doing things. Well, I have anyway.
It's the bloody Oh, you God. Just drink your bloody sherry, will you? I can see you've got a glass on the go. I can see you.
I'm trying to use it up before New Year because then it's just out of the house. It's the same with the Baileys as well. Well, I got the Baileys in for you coming up, but then we didn't get around to sorting anything out for you coming up, did we? Because you're very busy at your end now. So, I don't know what else to do with it apart from drink it. So,
bottoms
up.
So, yeah, we thought we'd take a look back over the last 29 episodes of our podcast, just to chew the cards, to see what we've thought. Has anything surprised us? You know, what's been the highlights of your year on our adventure, Dave?
Well, I think just learning new things, really. Learning how to construct a podcast episode, learning how to edit it all together, putting it out there, getting all the statistics back. That's been really interesting. And also accumulating our gazers, our people who've wrote into us. You know, considering where we started, which was we were a little bit tipsy in my back garden, weren't we? Going, shall we do a podcast? Shall we start a podcast? Yeah. And then here we are, 30 episodes later, and I've learned so much just about where I stand in the world and what my opinions are on things and how my opinions have changed. We've watched so much together and discussed and dissected so much together. It's been great, and to know that we've kind of imparted that information and people have responded to it as well and written back to us and said, actually, I didn't think about it that way, but I will in future. You know, that's been really interesting.
Yeah, agree with all of them. Obviously not the editing because you do the tech stuff and you're very good at it because I haven't got a clue. But yeah, it's been quite fun, hasn't it? And you think, because we recorded a pilot episode, which we did twice, which was dreadful. And then we did 3 versions of Hello, I think. Was the one we actually put out was the 3rd version we'd done of it, trying just to get our groove. Because the first time we recorded it was like we didn't even know each other. It was like we just met.
Yeah.
We were having an awkward conversation on the train.
We were really polite, weren't we?
I want to think about this.
We were really polite about
very
things.
Polite. So that's been...
You were very Jan Leeming and I was very Trevor McDonald.
You weren't Trevor McDonald. You were... What were those comedians called? Trev and...
Terry Christian.
That's it, yeah. To Terry Christian, to my Jan Leeming. Oh, we're so on the ball with our references, aren't we? Our cultural references, kids.
But then we found our groove.
Yes, we did. I like to think we did. And it has been fun watching these quite different things and subjects and topics they've brought up. And I think it's been super interesting just drawing a lot of stuff in. Obviously, I've studied and being able to apply that to pop culture in a way that I haven't really done before. So that's been great. Some of the things have been fantastic we've watched. Some of them have been absolutely bloody awful, but they've been an experience and they've being able to prompt a discussion afterwards, which is a great thing, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been quite a few things that you suggested that I would never have watched in a month of Sundays if you hadn't suggested them. The Page 3 Girls documentary from 1985. I mean, that was such a real eye-opener, and a lot of the things that we've watched are a real snapshot in time. Within our lived experience, we can kind of look back and with a nostalgic head on and think, where was I at this time? And when we talk about the news events that kind of shape where we are now, where they all stemmed from or what particular year they all stemmed from and how they all tied into what was going on in the cultural zeitgeist. And that's been really interesting. Yeah. And stuff that we've watched that's from before we were born, like, you know, the Victim film from 1961, how that was really pioneering in the way its sympathetic portrayal of gay people. You know, I never knew that existed until, you know, we started this podcast. So it's really opened my eyes to the wider world and where I fit into it.
Wow, that's great. Existential love. That's fab.
And then we watched Bullseye as well, which was brilliant. You know,
well,
it's been a mixture of real in-depth analysis and a bit of froth too.
But what's been nice for me is obviously, as I said, I know I've studied this stuff, and especially I've studied stuff about gender and gender performance and masculinities and femininities and the history of feminism, the history of queer rights and stuff. So it's been nice being able to contextualize all of that within this and looking over on our list of things we've done. I think we get a really interesting kind of little history of primarily Britain, I guess, but there's some US and world stuff in there as well, coming from an academic background. For example, if we think of things like two contrasting What Not to Wear, which was our first episode, and say Carry On Girls. And we talked at the time about how Carry On Girls was an answer to feminism at the time, but then what's your take on What Not to Wear, which was like 20 years, 30 years later, which is a show aimed at women, but is about denigrating women in order to get to a certain position.
Well, you know what? This is one of the things I've been thinking about was I, being a white male, a gay white male, obviously, but a white male essentially, have never really had to think about how much the patriarchy has dominated the narrative. Well, since forever. You know, I'm obviously aware that it existed, but just how much it informs what we watch on telly, what we see in films, you know, what's written. It really dominates. And it's not just you know, from the men's point of view, but the way women can contribute to that patriarchal version of the world that we see. That's one of the main points I'm going to take away with what we've done so far. You know, you talk about what not to wear. It's essentially these two women criticizing other women. You know, it's a very kind of patriarchal view. And essentially what they're saying is, you're not going to get anywhere in life looking the way you are.
Yeah.
You're going to have to change the way you are. You're going to change your physical appearance. You're going to have to change what you wear. To what? To win a man, or to get on in your career, or to be seen as interesting and valuable in the world. You know, but then we've also looked at things like Madonna's "Justify My Love," which was this woman, this really strong woman, saying, "This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to wear. This is how I'm going to behave. You can like it or not, but you're never going to stop me." And I think what's really interesting is the way that you say that progress isn't linear. That's another thing that I've learned, that for every, you know, Madonna's "Justify My Love," there's a Love Actually, which tells women you're not worth anything if you're fat, that you're there to wait around until a man wants you. You know, once you get to a certain age, you're not considered to be attractive anymore. You know, so it's not linear.
And one of the things I've loved about this is how we can draw elements from one thing and look at them in another angle. So let's go back to Madonna. You know, we've touched on several times that the flack she gets for not growing old, inverted commas, gracefully, and not behaving as a woman her age, again, inverted commas, should behave. And it just harkens me back to that episode we did on Hello, Hello, when we were talking about Edith as a representation of an older woman. And I've loved is the fact that that same message is in such contrasts. And circling back to what you said about Love Actually, you know, we can then take the ultimate grotesqueness of Love Actually embody it in the Fat Slags movie, which I would never have watched that, but just seemed like and again, in some ways, the Fat Slags are denigrated because they don't look a certain way, they behave a certain way. You know, they're not. But the Fat Slags movie, like Carry On Girls, just seemed more honest in what it was doing, as opposed to Love Actually or Pretty Woman, which I think, as you know, was a snake in the pack and nobody realised. You know, it's gently brainwashing the patriarchy.
What I've also really enjoyed doing is looking at things that are a little bit more up to date. For example, Heartstopper. I thought that was a really nice insight into the way LGBTQI plus drama has filtered into the national psyche. It really shows how far we've progressed. Whereas when we look back at Man About the House, there were gags made to gay people and they were the butt of the joke.
I like in Hello, Hello.
So it's really kind of been nice to see it. Yeah, Hello, Lieutenant Gruber and his little tank and things like that. So that's been really interesting to see the representation of gay people has progressed so much. And like what we said at the time when we watched Heartstopper, like the kids are all right. You know, it's kind of like the mantle's being passed to the next generation of, you know, TV makers, filmmakers, etc. And they're doing a great job of it, you know. And, you know, a world where everybody feels a little bit more equal is inevitably a good place to be.
And if you look at the actual bookends we've got Victim from 1961, which is our oldest thing I think we've looked at, and Heartstopper, which is our newest thing. So, again, not saying that progress is linear, but we have a direct contrast of 70 years between them of attitudes and societal norms and mores presented in these two contrasting bits of media. It's great, you know.
It is great. And then we've looked at episodes that are a little bit left field, that have kind of deviated away from, you know, feminist politics or LGBT politics. We've looked at Ghost Watch, which was a personal favourite of mine. You know all these clip show that you see on telly over Christmas? They did one about controversial TV moments, and Ghost Watch was on it, and I still had to look away at the scary moments. I shit my pants when I watched it the first time round, even though I know what's going to happen. It's one of those things that you have to look away from. which was great. And then we also looked at the Terminator as well to see how AI is quite prescient at the moment, as it was in 1986, and the advances that have been made, not 1986,
84.
sorry, and how it was in 1984 with the Terminator. And then, you're looking now, I'm looking on the internet now, I'm kind of flicking through Instagram, TikTok, X, although I hate X now, and you're looking at videos, you're just thinking, is this real? Or is it AI?
Yeah.
Who knows? It's going to come to a point, maybe even this time next year, where we're going to be looking at things, especially with like Elon Musk, being so close to Trump. What is the world going to look like in a year's time?
I don't think about it.
Apart from global domination of the problematic gaze, obviously that's going to happen. And
obviously
our Royal Albert Hall January extravaganza.
Yeah, we still need to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm just going with it, darling. You just have to go with it. Okay, fake it till you make it. That's what they say.
I'm going to try and segue, but really clumsily here, because I was going to say probably the world in a year's time is still going to be fucked up by men, because actually, as well as looking at womanhood and femininities in our podcast, we've also looked at masculinities and men. And I think of things like, men behaving badly. The Terminator obviously represents that particularly 1980s macho masculinity was doing the rounds. Even Fawlty Towers, Basil Fawlty is a representation of a certain type of man. Steptoe and Son, I think there's been some really interesting stuff we've been able to draw out of these episodes. It was just about the various pressures and societal codes that men have to adhere to as well, and how that's been changing and being threatened by things like the rise of women in the workforce, that kind of stuff.
That's really interesting because, again, if we hadn't have done this podcast, I don't think it would have opened my eyes to what we're seeing at the moment with the supposed threat to masculinity from all angles. It feels as though, there's a lot of talk these days about the straight white male being in a minority, which is a load of bullshit. It's just a load of noise on Twitter, etc. It's just another way of trying to push forward the straight white male narrative. They're not under threat. They're still dominating everything. Look at Putin, look at Trump, the leaders of industry, even the leaders of entertainment. But what is really interesting is the things we've watched, like, for example, Love Actually, Love Island, Victim, Men Behaving Badly, Steptoe and Son, like you said. It's really interesting to chart this scale of masculinity that's going on all around us at the same time. And I think what's really good for us as the problematic gays, as me and you, is we kind of stand somewhere in between, in the middle of all this, don't we? I think we identify with women a lot on our podcast, but we have got a lot of female listeners, and we can tell that because a lot of them write into us. So I think we're standing somewhere in the middle of all that, and it's a really good space to be able to kind of watch what's going on both sides of the argument.
Absolutely, and recognizing as well that we are, because we're male, in a position of privilege, I guess. But we're on Puff Island, everybody. Yeah. That's where we stand, observing everything.
Yeah, standing shoulder to shoulder with our sisters out there.
Yes, and 'twas it ever thus. The gays were always marching with the feminists back in the day. One thing that's really I've noticed is how the noughties feel more alien than any other decade at the moment. The 70s, 80s, and the 90s, I guess, seem like history. The 2010s are too close, but the noughties just feels so far removed from the 70s or the 2020s, and just thinking about the stuff we've watched, all the problems in Friends, whatnot, where Love Actually, obviously, fat slags. It's just really surprised me how far removed it seems from where we are today.
It's not until we start doing this podcast that I realised, we are in a very different place now to we were at the turn of the millennium, and it's only since watching these shows and discussing with you that I've realised that.
It's weird, isn't it? Our perception of time is weird sometimes, I think. I've really enjoyed seeing some things for the first time myself on this list. I'd never seen The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. I'd never seen The Holiday. I'd never seen The Terminator. And I've really enjoyed watching those things for the first time, apart from Love Actually, which I've just still...
That's one of the episodes that me and you just agreed on every single level. We don't always agree, but on that one we did. And it caused quite a bit of a stir amongst our listeners, but that's good. It's what the problematic gaze is all about. We'd like to stir things up, like to make people think and have discussions.
And nobody's right and nobody's wrong. As we've said before, it's possible for things to be many things at once and people to take different things from them. And we're not trying to stop someone thinking or enjoying it in a particular way. It's just not our bag. Although Love Actually should be burned.
So, I would say, apart from Love Actually, it is our ethos at the problematic gaze not to want to cancel anything not to want to say, this is wrong. If you watch this, you're not allowed to like it. And if you watch this other thing, then you must like it. Otherwise, there's something wrong with you. It's an open debate, isn't it? And, sometimes our opinions differ, which I think are the best episodes where, we can have a really good discussion about what we've seen.
Absolutely. Another thing that's kind of struck me, I think we've done more from the 80s than any other decade, but doing it has really brought the 80s back into life for me. Certain episodes have just resonated so much, and it's allowed me to kind of tap into the kind of living memories I've got over that time, and especially kind of nuclear war stuff. So when we watched Threads, not far from the Terminator, I was just having a nuclear war overload at that point, and then I went and visited that bunker. But then just other stuff from the 80s, it was just consolidating it all into this. It's really brought the decade into kind of vivid technicolor, which and one of the things I've really enjoyed is our top 40 countdowns, because obviously there is the presence of Shaky here and now. Is he there? Is he not? If you see him, he's good luck forever. If he's not there, it's not a good week. But also how many songs you absolutely don't know. But again, it's just hearing the top 10 or seeing what was in the top 10 is really kind of puts a particular moment in time and place, actually, that's been kind of fun. I really enjoyed it.
And also, looking at the news, the TV landscape and the charts of the time is really good for if you go and do a pub quiz.
Yes, it's true.
Because we've absorbed so much.
Yeah, it does.
And it makes you feel really brainy. Like the guest of the year things that come up.
Yeah.
I'm shit hot at that now where I wasn't before.
Yeah.
So thank you, Problematic Gaze.
Never stop learning, darling. Never stop learning.
So that was our podcast year in review. So now before we go any further and let you know what's coming up, we just want to make a few honourable mentions to people who've contributed to our podcast, who've helped us along the way. So here we go. Shall we just alternate?
Yeah. We'd like to thank Shirley in the creative department for even if something is a pile of rubbish rule, that you have to find 3 good things to say about it, which was obviously not applied before Love Actually was broadcast. And actually was said as a result of Love Actually.
Yes, the emergency button was pressed by Shirley in the creative department upon hearing our Love Actually episode, wasn't it? So thank you, Shirley, for that. We'd also like to thank one of our many gays out there, Jeannie Nunu, who we mentioned last week, and she was thrilled to be mentioned. So hello again. 2 mentions in 2 weeks. Jeannie Nunu, thank you.
A big thanks to Pierre in Paris, and who, along with Joe in Norway and Phil in Dublin, sent us lovely letters, didn't they? Not letters. They didn't send us a letter.
A lovely handwritten letter.
Epistle, yeah. No, they didn't. They emailed us.
With a quill.
Yeah. Sent by pigeon. No, they emailed us, which was really nice and lovely to hear from them.
I wonder if Pierre in Paris had a nice Christmas. What do you think Pierre in Paris did for
Maybe he
Christmas?
went back to Cardiff.
Yeah, might have done. Anyway, Liz in Loughborough also. Liz, thank you for your lovely emails and all your mentions on Instagram and TikTok. And Michelle at Ironclad Creative too.
Hello, Michelle. Hello to Gwyneth. Thank you to Gwyneth and Kelly as well for your support and love and deep fascination.
Lucy from Up the Lane. Thank you for all your support. I'm getting quite emotional now. I'm just going to take another sip of sherry. Cheers, Lucy. And also thanks to Maggie Moo, who left us a wonderful... Oh, it's that sherry kicking in now. Maggie Moo left us a wonderful review on Apple Podcasts, and I would urge all our gazers, please, to follow Maggie Moo's wonderful example, and please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, because they really make a difference. We love to read them, and they really help to spread the word of the problematic gaze and move us up the algorithms.
The algorithms.
The algorithms, hang on.
And a special shout out for that lovely person who gave us a 1-star review, which I'm still convinced is 1 star's the best, isn't it? Anyway, big thanks to everybody, and thanks to all your listeners, and please do continue to support us. It means a lot, and we wish you all a very happy, prosperous and calm and peaceful new year as well.
We do. And on all our socials, and all other places that you can get your podcast, we do have a link to our link tree, which if you click on that link, it takes you to all our socials. You can click on one link and you can email us. You can go to our website and everything. So yeah, just click on that link and it'll take you to all the ways you can communicate with us at The Problematic Gaze. So that is the end of our first season.
Yeah, well, first year, but we never look back, darling. Well, we do actually, because we're a history podcast, but we will look forward to what 2025 has in store for us. Because, dear listeners, gazers, we have some...
I've got a feeling it's going to be our year.
I've got a feeling it's going to be our year.
It's gonna be our year. This time next year we'll be millionaires. I can feel it in my water. Oh, it's coming. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you, darling. Go ahead, please do.
Because, dear listener, we have got some treats lined up for you coming up over the next 12 months. Have we not, Dave?
We have. We are going faster and furiouser than ever before. We are plunging headlong into 2025. We're brimming with ideas here at The Problematic Gaze for subjects that we are going to cover.
We've got some classic films coming up. Look forward to Top Gun, The Stud, Mannequin. I mean, they just roll off the tongue, don't they?
And then we've got some classics from British TV and some not so classics from British TV. So we've been holding back off this one because it is one of Lee's favourites. And we may possibly have some special guests for the episode on the Avengers, but that is TBC, the people working furiously behind the scenes to make that an eventuality.
There's a lot of negotiation going on at the moment with that. And also some other non-classics of TV, things like The Girly Show. We're going to look at some really dodgy TV ads from the 70s, 80s and 90s, aren't we?
We are. And then we're going to be looking at something which is one of my favourites that Lee has never seen. So I am really excited about that. It's an American comedy show called The Comeback, starring Lisa Kudrow, which is turned into a bit of a gay classic. Has to be said. So I'm really looking forward to Lee watching that.
Yes, I have to look forward to that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot to look forward to in 2025. And what are we opening the new year with, Dave, in our next episode?
Well, we're going to be looking at a kind of a staple of British Christmas and New Year TV. It's always on at some point, and we all sit there and we all watch it and we all sing along to it. It's the American musical movie Grease. Now, I picked this because I wanted to kind of ease us gently into the new year, because I can't foresee anything problematic about Grease.
No, nor me. Absolutely not at all. Yeah, we're going off to Rydell High. Get your pink ladies' jackets out, girls, and get your hair slicked back, boys, because we're getting to the summer of 60, whenever it's supposed to be set, I can't remember. As we step back in time, we shamalama ding dong, and we boopity 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 boop, and do all of that crazy kids stuff, even though we're 35, as we watch Grease. Go Grease Lightning, love.
All right, please do give us a follow at Podcast Gaze on TikTok and Instagram. If you want to email us at theproblematicgaze@gmail.com, or you can leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Please do. They really help spread the word of The Problematic Gaze. So until next week, this is Sandra D signing off.
And this is Cha Cha de Gregorio signing off.